Okay, this is Algebra 1, test number 13, or for week number 13. We didn't have a test 12. Study guide, picking up on number 12, part 2, says graph these two equations, y equals 1 and x equals 3. Notice they both only have one variable that they're describing. So they're both either going to be horizontal lines or they're going to be vertical lines. You're not going to have diagonal lines in this case. For number 12, it says y is equal to 1. You know that this is your y-axis, the one that's going up and down. So where y's value is 1, it's going to cross through at that point. You know it's going to cross through it, so it's always going to be 1. It'll be 1 at this point. It'll be 1 at this point. It's going to be a line that keeps on going horizontally. That's y equals 1. The same thing's true with the next one, where x is 3. This is your x-axis, this one here. So where x's value is 1, 2, 3 is where it's going to cross through. It's always going to be 3. So it'll be a vertical line that looks like that for x equals 3. That's the difference between number 12 and number 13, horizontal versus vertical. 14 says solve for y, then graph the equation. Okay, so you wanted to say y is equal to, so you got to move that over. Undo that by subtracting x. When you subtract x on the left, you have to subtract x on the right. Y equals negative x plus 2. There it is, solved for y. Okay. So then graph it. We only know two ways to graph. One of them would have actually been better and easier to use to graph had it been in the equation how it was to start, x plus y equals 2. That's standard form. But since we moved it, it's probably easier to graph it using an input-output table, x comma y. Let's use negative 1, 0, and 1. Let's make it easy. Plug in those values for x. So for right here, negative 1, it's negative 1, since we plug in negative 1 plus 2. So y equals negative negative. We know that that means 1 positive plus 2. So when we plug in negative 1, we're going to get the value 3. If we plug in 0 in place of that same x, now we have y equals negative 0 plus 2. It doesn't matter if 0 is positive or negative. It's still 0 plus 2. Y's value is 2. And then when we plug in the value 1, y equals negative, then it's 1 plus 2. Negative 1 plus 2, y equals 1. So we have 3 points right there. We have 3 ordered pairs, and we could graph all 3 of them. We're going to get rid of this to where we can see our graph. So when we graph it, we don't have to go any farther than negative 1 and positive 1, and we don't have to go any higher than 1, 2, and 3. The first one, negative 1, 3, on the x value, you're going to go to the left 1, and you're going to go up 3. There's your first point. The next one, 0, 2, you're not going to go left or right at all. You're going to go up 2. There's your second point. And the third one, 1, 1, you're going to go to the right 1, and you're going to go up 1. There's your third point. You have 3 points. You can draw a straight line through the 3, and that's how your graph should look for number 14. So that's it solved for y, and there's the graph that accompanies it. Number 15 says, we still follow in the same directions for number 14. Solve for y, then graph the equation. So move 4x over. It's positive. Subtract it. Subtract 4x there. We're still trying to get it by itself. Subtract 4x on this side. When you do that, you're left with negative 3y equals negative 4x minus 6. Undo negative 3 times something by dividing by negative 3. It's going to cancel it here and leave you with just y. Divide it here. A negative divided by negative is a positive 4 over 3x. And divided by negative 3 here. Again, a negative divided by negative is a positive 2. So that's it solved for y. The reason they're telling you to solve for y is because right here it's created slope-intercept form. In our next lesson, we're going to learn how to use this to graph. And y'all will like this one the most out of all 3 methods we've learned so far. But we don't know this method yet. So in order to graph it, we're going to have to plug in some values in place of x to get values for y. 0 is always your easiest one. Okay. In this case, though, since 3 is at the bottom of the fraction, the denominator, you want to use numbers that are 3 and negative 3, the way we can cancel it out. So if we use 3 and negative 3, this is the only time you want to use numbers besides negative 2, negative 1, 1, and 2. Okay. So when we plug in 0 in that place, we get y equals 0 times that, so it gives you 0 plus 2. So when you plug in 0, y's value is 2. When you plug in 3, you get y equals 4 over 3 times 3 plus 2. These cancel out, and you get y equals 4 plus 2, which is y equals 6. And then when you plug in y equals 4 over 3 times negative 3, the last one, plus 2, these cancel out, and you're left with a negative 1 there. Y equals negative 4 plus 2. Y's value is negative 2. So you have, for that one, negative 2. So now you have 3 values. None of them are fractions, so we can graph them all relatively easy. You don't have to go any higher than the number 6. So we'll be left with something that looks like this. We got to go as far to the left and the right as 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. We're going to have to go as far down as 2, and we're going to have to go as far up as 2, 3, 4, 5, go up one more, 6. Now we can graph them. 0, 2 is first, so 0, 2 right there. 3, 6 is next. Go to the right 3 times and go up 6 times there. And negative 3, negative 2. Down to the left 3 and down 2 is there. You have 3 points. You can draw a straight line between the 3. There's your graph. Again, it's going to be much simpler next week when we learn how to use mx plus b. We're going to begin at 2, and we're going to go up 4 and over 3. You already know what that is. We'll look at it again on Monday. 16 says we're going to just start solving these equations. X's are on both sides. You want to get your smaller amount to your larger one side. So subtract 2x. If you do it there, do it here. 5x minus 2x is 3x. We still have minus 6 over there. We still have negative 9 on the left. Get rid of that minus 6 by adding it. If you add it there, add it here. Negative 9 plus 6 is negative 3 equals 3x, and this cancels out. Get rid of 3 times something by dividing by 3 on both sides. A negative divided by a positive is going to be a negative. 3 goes into itself 1 time. You got a lot of combining like terms to do on this one because we have to simplify 7, 2, and 3D. So 7 and 2 is 9, and 3 more is 12D. Minus 6 is equal to 5D. 5D is smaller than 12D. Normally you'd bring the 5 over to the 12 side. But since there's a negative 6 right there, it's easier to bring this one over and we have less to do. So subtract 12D. If you do it there, do it here. 5D minus 12D is negative 7D. That cancels out, equals negative 6. Get rid of negative 7 times something by dividing by negative 7. If you do it there, do it here. Negative divided by negative is a positive. 6 over 7, there's no number that goes into both of them. D is 6 over 7. Number 18, we're solving for this one. Undo, again, you're trying to get x by itself. Undo minus 7 by adding 7. Add it here. Negative 3 plus 7 is positive 4. Equals, we have 4 over 7 times x. Now it's multiplying 4 over 7 times x. So you cancel that out by dividing by 4 over 7. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. That's a fancy word that just means flip it. So when you multiply that by 7 over 4, you have to multiply this by 7 over 4. This cancels out and leaves you with x. This cancels this out, and it leaves you with 7 over 1, which is simply 7. Move this positive 7 over by subtracting it. Do it here. 19 minus 7 is 12 equals negative D. Undo that negative 1 times D by dividing by negative 1. Do it here. Positive divided by negative is going to be a negative. This is going to cancel out. 12 divided by 1 is 12. For number 20, you want to combine your like terms before you undo anything. 49 minus 7 is 42. Plus 9W is 114. Move that positive 42 over by subtracting it. If you do it there, do it here. 4 minus 2 is 2. 11 minus 4 is 7. So 9W, since this cancels out, is 72. Divide by 9 since it's multiplying. If you do it there, do it here. W is 8. You have to distribute for 21. 4 times y is 4y. 4 times negative 7 minus 28. Then simplify it by undoing the minus 28 by adding it. If you do it there, do it here. Negative 4 plus 28, you got to subtract them. You get 24. Keep the bigger sign positive. 4y equals 24. Undo that by dividing by 4. Do it here. Y equals 6. 4p over 7 plus 30 equals 18. Undo the plus 30 by subtracting 30 on both sides. If you do it there, do it here. 18 minus 30, you got to subtract them. We know 30 minus 18 is going to be 12, and you got to keep that negative since 30 is the bigger absolute value. So right now you have 4 times p over 7 equals negative 12. Undo this over 7 part by multiplying by 7. If you do it there, do it here. 4p equals 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 1 plus 1 is 84, and it's a positive times a negative, so it's negative 84. Undo 4 times something by dividing by 4. Do it here as well. P equals, again, a positive and a negative is going to be negative. 4 goes into 8 twice and into itself once, negative 21. X minus 6 equals negative 4. Undo minus 6. This is one step. X equals positive 2. And then 24 and 25, y plus a negative 7 is the same thing as y minus 7 equals negative 12. Undo minus 7 by adding it. You do it there, do it here. Negative 12 plus 7, you subtract them, you get 5, and you keep the larger absolute value, negative 5. And in negative 5 to the 4th power, you're not raising negative 5 to the 4th power, you're just raising 5. So it means 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, this is 25, this is 25, and when you multiply those two together, you get 625, and then you bring that negative down to make it negative 625.